Hey everyone, it's Matt and Liz here with a special request as we count down, Liz, our 100th episode of ChatEDU. We can hardly believe that we're hitting triple digits. And we want to celebrate with you, our listeners who have made this journey so special.
So for our big 100th episode, we'd love to feature your voices. If ChatEDU has been a part of your life, whether it's given you insights, laughs, or just a fresh perspective on AI in education, we want to hear from you.
So send us a short audio clip, maybe even video, but audio is just fine, telling us how you've connected with the podcast, and maybe toss in a question that you've just been dying to ask, mostly of Liz. We'll share as many of your messages as we can during our centennial episode, and maybe a few after that too.
So just email your audio or video submissions over to chatedu@edadvance.org. That's chatedu@edadvance.org. We can't wait to celebrate this milestone with the people who've made ChatEDU what it is. Thanks so much for being part of our journey, and we look forward to hearing from all of you.
Fantastic. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. So Liz, I'm thinking about little Liz. Like, when do you remember being kind of little, hanging out by the Christmas tree or the Hanukkah bush, or, well, it's Christmas tree in your case. But...
Yeah, there's no Hanukkah bush in my house. When do I remember it? Yeah, I remember Christmas starting at like 5, 6, just being so excited. We would walk down the stairs like around a corner, so you couldn't see anything until you rounded the corner. But my dad was always at the bottom with the video camera and wouldn't let us walk down the stairs until the video camera was set up.
I love it. So I'm imagining, I mean, obviously I didn't know you, but I've known you pretty well now. And I'm imagining, like, if you were unwrapping presents, I don't know if Barbie, like, if you were with your cousin Gina or with your friend Laura, like, I doubt you were playing Barbie. They may have been Barbie people, but...
I was not a Barbie girl.
Not at all,
no,
right?
No.
Yeah. I feel like you were like I don't know, like if a Sweet Valley High book came out and you were...
Oh, Sweet Valley Twins. Sweet Valley High was a little too old and controversial, but Sweet Valley Twins, I have all of the books still in my house, numbers 1 through 50.
Yeah, this is the age difference again between us because I
oh my God.
Not super familiar with that series.
Sweet Valley Twins, Elizabeth and Jessica. Oh, loved that book.
Okay. And if it were like a doll or something, I feel like maybe My Little Pony.
Yes, My Little Pony. This is all really creepy. I do not like that you have my mother's phone number.
Thanks, Kitty. So, why am I asking about Barbie?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you recall that you look uncomfortable? Do you recall that we've covered a couple Barbie stories in the last year? Mostly about OpenAI and Mattel and OpenAI kind of like team up.
They're going to make toys that have AI in them. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard when you were out on your tour when Yaron Overeem was here. He and I talked about this toy named Kuma. It's like a little teddy bear that was powered by OpenAI.
Super cute looking, but problematic.
Yeah, told the kids where to find, like, I think maybe matches and alcohol in the house.
Yeah.
They pulled it from the market.
It's probably good.
Yeah, so amid that growing controversy, right, OpenAI and Mattel have decided that they're not going to launch their AI Barbie. Now, maybe a My Little Pony or a Google storybook of Sweet Valley High. I asked Michelle about this because she was delighted. I was talking to your mom, and... it's great. I got a lot of time in the car. I'm like, Kitty, can you just give me a quick call? All right. So experts cite serious developmental and safety risks for children, including exposure to inappropriate content and propaganda. I wonder what the propaganda is. That's great. From AI toys in the market. And Mattel clarified that AI projects are still underway, but target families older users, not young children. The announcement follows intense scrutiny over similar AI toys that have given children harmful advice in political messaging. So that's where we are as we roll up to the holiday season.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of other podcasts besides ours. Of course I listen to ours, but other podcasts. And there's an advertisement for this like toy that is AI. And it's like, what if it could tell your kids a story every night? And I'm like, well...
About where to find the alcohol and matches?
Right. I'm like, how about you parents tell their kids stories? But it just keeps coming up, these like AI toys for little kids. And I'm all about AI for purpose, but...
Well, it's a perfect encapsulation of the human loop, right? Because how many parents, when we've been doing the like what sparks joy for you around a faculty or a keynote or whatever, how many parents talk about how much they've enjoyed co-writing, based on their child's interest, a bedtime story, so if it's about human in the loop, not outsourcing, then, we can get great stuff here. Now, before we roll, I have to say, you and I are obsessively on LinkedIn these days, probably not healthy, but yeah. And then actually, I just try to stay up, and the amount of people who are like, go, go, go. I just cannot keep the pace that most people seem to. But I did notice that Matthew Spearing, because anytime your name pops up, I'm like, hey, that's cool. So I do want to say that Matthew Spearing, maybe Andre will show a little picture of this, is holding up proudly a copy of Learning They'll Love from the author, Dr. Elizabeth Radé, and talks a lot about you and project-based learning, Capstone Consortium, and all sorts of good stuff. So we did just want to make sure that we gave that a shout out.
Yes.
What are you up to? Number 3 on Amazon right now?
No, I was at 4.
Oh, did you get knocked down?
I don't know. Adam told me to stop checking Amazon every hour.
I'm going to go buy 2 copies and bump it up.
Bump it up.
So with that, I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Radé.
And this is ChatEDU, the AI and Education podcast. In today's episode, we're getting these next 2. We're going to look behind and look ahead. So signals in the noise, the stories that kept popping up on ChatEDU. We'll look at a number of recurring stories and themes and what they mean for learning and learning organizations.
But first, in the news, we'll do a rundown from the past week or so. Next, we'll take a look back at 2025. And of course, we'll end with another great Bright Byte.
Fantastic. I think I always say fantastic right at that moment.
You too.
Yeah. So, Liz, we have actually big fans of AI vision. Think it's fascinating the way that cameras, iPads, a thing in the back of the classroom that's watching a teacher and giving them feedback privately just for them. I mean, there's all sorts of fascinating applications of AI and vision, the ability of AI systems to see stuff, right? It pops up a lot in security, though we don't cover this, but we work with schools who have been using AI cameras to improve security, do gun detection, all this kind of stuff. So I couldn't help but notice this little Washington Post story that came out on the 17th, the day before my birthday, that a school was locked down after a flag gun turned out to be a
Clarinet.
Yes. You played.
That could have been me.
Yeah, I was going to say you played the clarinet.
I did.
Yeah. So tell us what happened here. This is a tool called Zero Eyes.
Yeah. So an AI surveillance system from Zero Eyes mistakenly triggered a lockdown at Lawton Childs Middle School in Florida after flagging a clarinet held by a student in a costume as a rifle. But, this incident obviously reflects growing concerns over AI-powered school security tools that can misidentify threats and cause panic and unnecessary police responses. Zero Eye defends the decision as a precaution, but critics warn that such tech can create alarm fatigue and false accusations, highlighting the need to weigh safety against reliability and student well-being. I cannot imagine if I was carrying my clarinet to school and got flagged as a security threat.
Yeah, I can see trauma around that.
Yeah, I'd definitely have some trauma.
I mean, we've covered other stories like this, like the systems that will read kids, what's in their Google Drive or on their Chromebooks. And, this is the problems and this is such a theme, just like you said in the bedtime story. We have a lot of opportunity. We have a lot of challenge. Maybe we should just rename ChatEDU Opportunity and Challenge. Okay, let's switch to previously on ChatEDU. So a couple different things. We'll do a little NotebookLM, of course, but let's start with agentic browsers. So folks will remember that an agentic browser or an AI agent is a system that will essentially take over your mouse, and it uses AI vision as well here to see what's on the screen and interact with it. We've had examples in ChatGPT's Atlas browser, or OpenAI's Atlas browser, to log into our AI literacy course that you built and do a beautiful job just moving right through the curriculum. So this is a problem we've covered a couple different times. We want to look at a couple new perspectives on this. So Harvard University and Perplexity did a pretty big study about AI adoption and usage of these agents, specifically from the Comment browser from Perplexity. So this is the first of its kind large-scale study examining how these general-purpose AI agents, specifically the Comment browser, are being adopted and used in real-world settings. The research looked at hundreds of millions of anonymized queries. This is one of my favorite things about the field, is that you just have mountains of data to kind of play with if you're a researcher. So this is between July and October. So imagine that's not like a huge swath of time, right? So they thought about who's using them, how are they using them, how intensively are using them, and what are they using them for. So what we find, Liz, what are the big findings?
36% of all queries were for productivity and workflow.
Okay.
21% were for learning and research.
That's going to turn out to be a big number, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, right there, that's 36 and 21 is 57% of all queries are productivity, workflow, learning, research. So that's all pretty productive use, I would think. Media and entertainment was 16%, shopping and commerce 10%, and job and career 7%.
It's funny about the 10% for shopping and commerce because the reason they built these things, right, is to facilitate commerce. So it's interesting that, right, because it's sort of like, I think we discussed this with the Rufus agent in Amazon. Like, hey, Rufus, go fetch me these things because I don't have the time to shop.
Right. You can't Google them.
Oh my God, the people, including my significant other, they get a lot of dopamine hits out of shopping, would not be into Rufus. All right, so let's break down the learning and research a little bit because this is probably where the kiddos are using these agentic browsers like Comet to do their schoolwork.
So out of about this 100 million query sample, about 21 million queries are learning and research, which is the education-aligned category. So kids are using these agentic browsers at a huge number, not just kids, students, adults across all ages are using these for learning and research and maybe doing some things that like aren't that ethical and, completing courses or completing pieces of coursework. So there's so much out on LinkedIn about what is the future of online learning. It's a big question.
Right, because it's not just what's ever happening in college, which is a big deal, but there's also the whole world of adult certification, right? There's so many like certificates and bloodborne pathogens or sexual harassment or microaggressions, whatever it is, right? The ability of these systems to do these independently gets tough. All right, so we have covered this a couple times. Now, Anna Mills, who you can find on LinkedIn, is quite prolific. She teaches at the higher ed level and does a lot of online teaching. She actually was just on a really good podcast with John Nash. I don't know if you follow John, but his stuff is really great too. I think it's called like Online Learning in the Second Half is their podcast. But she did a very fun thing. So she put up a post on LinkedIn, essentially saying like, hey, there's these agentic browsers that can do stuff. And what was her prompt? It's like, what's the best reason to let an AI agent autonomously browse and submit work in a learning management system on a student's behalf? But then the qualifier is
wrong answers only.
Wrong answers only. So what did you see there? Anything good that people put in?
Yeah, there were a couple of them. So one that I loved is algorithms have to learn too. Why lock up learning for meat bags only? Oh. This one is a favorite because I need to spend more time with my cats and less time on silly things that take me away from my cats. This one just made me laugh so hard. So the LMS can finally interact with someone or something who actually reads the syllabus, which is a professor's like, the kids don't ever read the syllabus.
Well, it's funny because when I watch the agent in Atlas or Comet, or even I give it to ChatGPT's agent, when I watch them do our course, they do the assignment, which is basically interacting with a custom chatbot and then writing these very nice reflections, but they never watch the video. I'm like, we worked hard on those videos.
You have to watch the video.
You're not watching it. I mean, maybe they're digesting it. We're not even seeing it. Yeah, so that was fun. Now, to be a little bit more glass half full, although that felt glass half full to me. There was another interesting post up on LinkedIn. This is Luke Hobson, who proposes a number of ways, because this drives the whole conversation about are there durable assessments that an AI agent or an agentic browser can't just like autonomously do for a kid. And if you can't visualize what this looks like, by the way, go check out Anna Mills on LinkedIn because she both has created some videos of an AI agent taking quizzes, and she links to a lot of people who have also done these like kind of video profiles. But it's not hard. You can download the Atlas browser, go to some web page that you interact with. It could be your FAFSA, I mean, whatever you want, and say, using the browser, complete what's on this page. All right, so this is 5 AI proof assessment ideas in an online asynchronous world. What do we have here?
Yeah, these were pretty neat. So in light of these tools like OpenAI's Atlas and Perplexity's Comet that can now really complete these online courses, these are some things that some examples that kind of recenter learning around the humanness, like reflection, creativity, and authenticity. So one is recorded journals. So having students weekly and short videos respond to prompts. Written reflections can be faked. Spoken video journals reveal genuine thought process and help reinforce learning. Mm-hmm. I like this one, teach back sessions. So students have to teach a topic to their peers in a short presentation, and which pushes them to fully understand and communicate the content. Mm-hmm. And engage in creativity, which is very cool. Interviews and reflections. So when learners have to conduct interviews with professionals in the field, share the recording, reflect on their insights, this connects coursework with real-world perspectives, builds unique AI-resistant experiences.
Authentic understanding. These are great. Yeah, what else we have?
Community-based learning. So students identify and address real community needs and then go out and do something about it.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Okay, I bet that would lead to learning they love.
It would lead to learning they love. This is something that reminds me, I mean, way back when I was in college in the late 90s, early 2000s, my English class actually had an opportunity. If you went 3 times and worked with, I don't think it was actually Habitat for Humanity. I think it was more a local one from Baltimore. But we went and as part of our coursework, went and worked with people and built houses and connected that back to the literature we were reading, which was awesome.
Yep.
And then critiquing AI. So instead of banning AI, students evaluate its outputs, which helps them develop critical thinking, digital literacy by spotting AI's limitations.
I was just working with a district, and they're doing some really cool work mapping. They have very well-defined instructional units. And so they're doing some anchor examples of across K-12. There was a whole lot of this number 5 going on. It's just like the go-to strategy. And I think it's fine. I think over time it's going to get tougher because as the AI gets better, have the AI write the essay and then mark up why it lacks authentic voice or human qualities or the M dashes. I mean, I think that stuff improves over time. But yeah, these are all great examples. We have a really guy that you and I like quite a bit named Justin Bruno. He's out in Michigan. And we were going back and forth on a LinkedIn post because there was an article. It was like an article about AI content detectors. And he was appropriately bemoaning that, can we just move past this? And I, feeling in this rare moment of glass half fullness, which is actually not really rare, but I said, when I'm out in schools talking to teachers, I'm seeing a lot of these numbers 1 through 4 and 5, but we do all those workshops on durable learning and durable prompting, et cetera, et cetera. But you are seeing a lot of teachers just get it, right? Oh, this didn't work, and so I'm going to make these shifts so that kids demonstrate knowledge and expertise in other ways. A lot of these are kids teaching other kids or, being able to express the content. But I don't know, at some level, I think we get super worried about all this. And then teachers just make moves on the ground and professors just make moves on the ground to adjust for it. And probably when the day is done, we've said this, you and I've said this for a while, probably for the better, right?
Yeah.
Because we've seen this diversity of assessment that's happening in response to AI that's helping kids demonstrate knowledge and skills in interesting ways.
Right. Which should have been happening for lots of years. But if this is the catalyst is one of my new favorite words.
Oh, cool.
But if this is the catalyst to drive some change, hopefully it'll be enduring and go from there.
Yeah. Learning they'll love. Catalyst for purposeful learning.
Yeah.
Sorry, just rewriting your book title. Also previously on ChatEDU, we've actually went 2 weeks, I think, without talking about NotebookLM, which is remarkable. So a couple quick NotebookLM updates. One actually is a perfect dovetail on what we just discussed, right? So this guy, Philip Alcock, LinkedIn has become a common reference point for us on ye old ChatEDU, put a really neat post up about what he calls student-led portfolio defense using NotebookLM. I thought this was super clever. I knew you would too. So I just wanted to have you quickly outline what he's proposing and doing here.
All right. So I'm going to walk through the workflow of what students do.
Love it.
So first, he has the students create a hub. So they create a dedicated notebook, Maths Physics Journey.
Because it's FERPA compliant, totally cool to use in schools.
Absolutely. So they put in kind of everything from this, whatever the course is or the kind of unit. So not just their final document, but the journals, the photos, the feedback logs, everything they've kind of created in this time period.
Cool.
Then they use AI in NotebookLM to find the threads that connect their work. So based on these documents, what are the key moments or shifts in my understanding? Then they categorize by goal. So they can extract specific quotes to prove different competencies. Here I can show you the content I learned. Here I can show you where I collaborated. Here I can show you where the creativity was happening. And then they have to fact check. And this is totally non-negotiable. So they have to generate a narrative summary and then read and edit and verify it against their own memory.
Which I find myself doing all the time with my NotebookLM outputs. Right. I'm just interesting. Let me go back and look at that.
Let me make sure I did that. Right. So that adds that human context that the AI may have missed or may have misinterpreted. They have to go back and, fine tune it. And then they ask for the final step, what misconceptions show up in my work? And then that allows them to do some like formative assessment on themselves before they even present it to you. And so then they kind of submit that notebook, the chat, their conversation, and their final reflection to their professor. And I mean, that's so cool, like defending their own learning. Here's where I was at the beginning of this unit. And here's where, I can see that, I'm still not getting this part, or I misinterpreted this, book section or theme. So I love this.
I figured you'd be pretty happy.
It's such deep work.
Yep.
I mean, so much deeper than like, and I'm going to give you a test at the end, and you're going to hand in a final paper.
Or like, I think one of the interesting things about Notebook is that it's just opening up, and this is a perfect example. Like I'll say for a lot, like, oh, Notebook, it's so interesting because you can customize the chats and it can be in tutor mode and you've got all the resources in the studio, the flashcards, the videos, the audio. But here's like, no, let's really deepen the pedagogical application. So for 18 months, 2 years, we're like chat with a historical character, chat with Martin Luther King, just these very narrow chatbots. And Notebook, I think, is opening up much more diverse and deeper learning opportunities. And it's great. It's cool. So we'll keep profiling these. So good stuff. This, again, is Philip Alcock, who is he's got a thing called PBL Future Labs. He, like us, works a lot at the intersection between project-based learning and AI. Very cool. All right, a couple of quick updates for Notebook. One of the things you may notice a lot when you would chat with NotebookLM is that you would chat and then all your chats were gone unless you were, clever enough to remember to hit the save note.
Make it a document and
which would save it over on the right-hand side in the studio. So they now have chat history, which is great. Have you noticed because you and I share a couple.
Yeah, I haven't noticed it, but
okay.
I haven't
The only problem, I haven't found, maybe there's a carrot system to like collapse them, but if I'm in there, Cam's in there, we share the ChatEDU notebook, which has 89 transcripts.
Right.
So it's a great knowledge repository for us, but it's all there. So you got to it's date stamped. So you have to feed through and look at it. They also, this was in 9 to 5 Google. We'll drop the link to the show notes, but it's pretty self-evident when you see there. There's also, it looks like, and people ask this a lot, they're like, wait, is NotebookLM, because if we're not super clear and we explain like what's going on, people are like, NotebookLM might as well be Gamma or Napkin or whatever. And the same is true of Nano Banana. These are all, NotebookLM, Nano Banana, Deep Research. They're all Google tools. They're all rooted in Gemini. But people don't always follow the idea that these are related. Like they're, NotebookLM and Gemini are both under your waffle. They're two.
Right.
And both sync to all your Google resources, et cetera, et cetera. So, but it is confusing. And so there's a little bit of, I think this is more rumors, but it looks like this is on XDA. Google is bringing NotebookLM into Gemini. But some people have seen evidence where in Gemini, you can actually query your notebook. So these two things might come together in different ways, which would be kind of neat. All right. So that is the updates from the Notebook ecosystem.
Love it.
Yeah, steering got really good too. Maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the ability to really, I was in a district last week and we were working on, they're like, oh, the notebook answers are so long and they're giving the kids the homework assignments. And I think this is in the paid version, unfortunately, but when you go to steer it under customization of the chat, you can really say like no more than 20 words and do not give the kids the answers. And it does a really good job in the notebook, which they think they can then share to their students. All right, a little bit of AI literacy. So this is pretty neat. Also saw this from somebody on LinkedIn. Sorry, I don't recall who. LSU to push for broader AI education going into effect in every major across the board. This is like a request from the Student Government Association. Which
I loved that it was cool that it came from the students. I saw this in a couple of different places.
Yeah.
But
tell us about it.
All right. So Louisiana State University's student government is advocating for this free, non-credit AI fundamentals certificate open to all majors, which addresses the accessibility and this growing need for just AI literacy beyond computer science. So students are citing a few different concerns about the misuse of AI for shortcuts and academic dishonesty, but arguing that so many people are relying on it without understanding it. So true.
Mm-hmm.
So the proposed certificate would promote ethical, effective use. And so LSU already runs a selective interdisciplinary AI course with real-world business partnerships, suggesting that there's a model already there that they can just expand. And so I love that it's coming right from the the student government, and hopefully they will expand that and it'll get there for them.
We're seeing more of this. You and I were just in a meeting just before this. We were talking about a possible higher education panel for our spring conference in May in beautiful Litchfield, Connecticut. But we're seeing more universities. The SUNY system, I think we covered Purdue last week, are starting to have a number of the schools in Ohio are starting to have like AI literacy requirements or different kinds of implementations of assured experiences, which is encouraging, right? Because I think it's recognizing that this is a thing that students need to navigate in an ethical and safe way, and also kind of critical for their career prospects in a very odd labor market.
But really important to remember that like an AI literacy course doesn't mean that everyone else is off the hook. And I think that's one of the concerns I've seen on LinkedIn is people saying like, if we mandate an AI literacy course, does that mean that other people are going to feel like, oh, I don't have to address it in my class because they've already taken the course on it? So I think really important to remember, I was talking to my brother about this too, that like just because they take the AI literacy course in 10th grade doesn't mean that in 12th grade, you don't have to talk about it anymore. Like it changes so rapidly. It's applied so differently in your science class versus your English class. So I love that there's this one assured experience to get the head start and get the like be the catalyst for your learning on AI. But also, it doesn't mean everyone else is off the hook.
I'll just say it here. The district that I was in last week working on this is Madison, Connecticut. Really, really interesting district. And one of the things that makes Madison unique is that they just have such a well-documented curriculum. And actually what's on paper appears to be what's actually happening in the classroom. So their effort to then take all these units and to figure out where to make these integration points becomes really, really critical. But there is a tension. We had a fascinating conversation where there is a real kind of urgent need for an assured experience, because mapping AI literacy to 1,000 units across the K-12 sequence, or 1,000 or more, is going to take some time and some skill development, right? So I think you're right to point out. Plus, you did write an AI literacy curriculum, which is exceptional. So I'm glad you believe that there's a point of having an assured experience.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But I don't want it to be the like get out of jail free card for everyone else to say like, oh, our kids take AI literacy as freshmen. I don't have to think about it.
Sure. At some level, the nature of the technology takes care of that, because you'll remember, well, you won't actually because you're too young, but, we had like internet classes, internet awareness, internet assured experiences. And eventually the internet became so ubiquitous that it just shows up in every critical part of the curriculum for every area. All right. So that's a good, kind of scaffold on top of this really interesting piece in The Conversation. I've had a few nice articles I've read there recently. So this is an educational researcher named Niraj Shah. And the title is The One Chatbot Per Child. And I'm just really interested in that phrase because I worked on the one laptop per child thing in the the early 2000s quite a bit. All right, so the one chatbot per child model for AI in classroom conflicts with what research shows. Learning is a social process. So take us through this.
Sure. So, as you said, education researcher Niraj Shah critiques the growing push for AI-driven individualized instruction, like you said, one chatbot per child, and says it ignores decades of evidence that learning is fundamentally social. So while personalized AI tools may offer some benefits, they risk undermining peer interaction and classroom discourse, which are both critical to academic and cognitive development. He warns that schools that are embracing generative AI without sufficient research on its impact on K-12 learners, especially around mental health and relationships and equity, are doing a disservice. So schools should center child development, kind of what we know, social learning, rather than adopt tech-driven cost-cutting models.
Yeah, I think the only qualifier for me is that I think we know, right? Because we know, for instance, take project-based learning as a pedagogical strategy. Take a personal interest project, for instance, something you know something about. So we've been pretty clear that here's like a sound, evidence-based pedagogical strategy. And we bring AI into the mix in a way that helps students scaffold the learning. It feels very different than the one chatbot per child. When I hear that, I basically see kid talking to a magic school tutor, or more intense, a kid. Was there any particular school model that came to mind when you read that?
2-hour learning.
Yeah. So, or in the 2-hour learning alpha school model, the kid is in the IXL, Conmigo, AI hyped up,
Right.
one tutor, chatbot per tutor, but also the camera's looking at the kid and they're, looking at, so there's very intense like engineered chatbot tutor. So yes, I think that is a grand experiment and there's strengths and challenges and evidence and also a lot of people who are choosing to have their kids come out of that system for all sorts of reasons.
Right.
But when we put AI in something like a project-based learning kind of context, I feel less concerned about the experimentation that's going on. I think we have to be super thoughtful and careful about it. The other reality is that there's labor market evidence that kids needing to use AI in a social context becomes pretty important for their career survival, right? We have 2 stories here we can hit on. One, I caught this in The Guardian. This is storytellers, how the world's oldest job has become the hottest new corporate title. I don't know if you've noticed it, like storytelling is everywhere on TED Talks, on social. Yeah. So companies like Google, Microsoft, Notion, Vanta are all redefining storytelling with this new AI twist. So this is a strategic corporate function with roles across marketing, compliance, internal communications, but a lot of it has to do with AI. So give us a little bit of flavor of this.
Yeah, I mean, companies are now creating a job role called a storyteller, or the head of storytelling is what Vanta calls it. And the salary is up to $274,000. So I'm a pretty good storyteller, Vanta. Not that I want to leave this job, but I wouldn't mind $274,000. So basically, they are saying that this job focuses on shaping brand narratives around complex themes like AI and cloud adoption and cybersecurity. So what the storyteller does is kind of creates these customer success stories to drive growth. And so they're blending it with all different, fields like cybersecurity, and it's doing things internally and externally and being social and influencing in like that influencer way into this like single storytelling team. And they are making customer stories and use cases, translating like technical narratives into actually engaging things that people understand. They're collaborating across departments to execute these campaigns, shaping internal culture. And the skills are what you would expect, right? Strong writing and conceptual storytelling, but also a skill in marketing and brand strategy and technical fluency in AI and cloud and security compliance, and this ability to be cross-functional, collaborative, and creative. I could do all those things, Vanta.
The reason I say this a lot, but just to always be clear, the reason we cover some of these labor market trends is that they're really interesting signals back to the classroom.
Right.
Whether it's university or high school or workforce development or K-5, right? We're getting a real picture here of what the future labor market looks like and its influence in terms of AI on the labor market. So kind of really good example. And Vanta, Liz is a delightful employee. Just make sure she can have Monday between 10 and noon to record the podcast, right? Now, we've obviously been digging into this quite a bit ourselves as we think about this kind of learning where kids are collaborating with AI, using it to solve real-world problems. So we've been doing a lot of thinking about this in Beyond the Bot. Actually, you and I, a lot of you, but collaborated on an article called Sparking Curiosity with Applied Intelligence, because I believe there is a theme issue coming up around sparking curiosity. What's the status on that, Doc?
So we did just get an article accepted to Ed Leadership, which is ASCD's magazine, on that article, Sparking Curiosity, where we do tell some of these Beyond the Bot stories. So I'm thrilled that we got accepted. And these stories are just telling about kids using AI to do something to solve a problem, not just talk to a chatbot.
Right. So it's not a one bot per child. They're coming up with solutions for oral cancer. Kids in Alaska are figuring out how to use AI to throw lanes down below the snow so the snowplow drivers can see them.
Right.
Or little kids are trying to figure out how to use AI to measure ice thickness in Minnesota. And so we're delighted that this work is going to get a little bit more visibility, and we're going to keep leaning into this because I think these are really at some level, right? Students using AI in this non-one chatbot per child, but in a social learning context winds up being critical at multiple levels. We know it's just good stuff. Anyone who's done PBL knows that, project-based learning. We also know this is probably a little bit of a career survival guide. And also, you and I hear a lot of pushback from young adults and teens about generative AI. This is going to be the theme of the Bright Byte, so I don't want to go too far. But, kids have legitimate concerns, sometimes not always fully informed, about the environment or intellectual property. The intellectual property, yes. The environment and water consumption, go listen to that Hard Fork episode a couple weeks ago.
Or Hank Green's episode on it.
Yeah, for sure. But the ability of AI to be a problem solver for these systemic generational problems that in many cases have been laid at these kids' doorsteps, I think we need to bring more awareness around this, because there are great examples all over the world of kids using AI to unlock community problems, environmental problems, social justice problems. So somehow we got to kind of bring all these things together.
And I love seeing the problems, which we see in personal interest projects and saw in Expo Fest, how dependent some of these projects are on context. And like we saw very different solutions from kids in urban towns who are concerned about bus routes versus kids in rural towns who were concerned about feeding chickens.
Right.
And like we've seen very different projects from kids in India versus kids in Arkansas. Yeah. So I love that how much the kids think about their like very local problems.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, I think we were talking about this today, it doesn't have to be like a massive project. There's ways that students can use AI to level up, on smaller challenges too. So yeah, you're going to hear us talk a lot about this in 2026. Next week is our looking forward to 2026. And we're really going to enjoy, and it's not, there are great stories to tell. Sometimes it's our job just to bring them up to the surface. So you're about to hear me read the last winter micro-credential call for enrollment. I'm pretty sure because we're filling up, and when does the micro start, Liz?
January. Martin Luther King Day.
Okay, we may sneak another one in there. But yeah, if you do want to join us for micro, please do. All sorts of stuff has been updated in the course, so there's a lot of new content there. And anyone who's taken the micro credential, just remember you can always log back in and see the new content that's there. There's new stuff on Google Vids, new stuff on GEMS, new stuff on NotebookLM, new strategy activities and modules. So there's a lot there. If you enjoy our insights on AI and education, don't miss out on our next 6-week AI and Education micro-credential launching this winter in partnership with Southern Connecticut State University. This self-paced online course for educators and leaders in primary, secondary, and higher education across the globe covers AI essentials from foundational concepts to advanced skills like prompting, AI-driven assessments, and multimedia creation. We've added a bunch of new content for the winter cohort, including a focus on emerging risks like AI companions, energy, and the environment. We'll dive into the latest on NotebookLM, which could be a course unto itself. There are new student AI literacy resources in the Future Focus module, as well as important updates on student-facing tools like custom GEMS and guided learning in Gemini. And finally, we've added Google Vids to our great collection of multimedia AI tools that we cover. Each cohort includes 4 live Zoom sessions for hands-on support, and participants earn a Credly digital credential upon completion. Visit skills21.org/AI/micro to sign up now.
All right, Matt, now it's time to go beneath the surface, and we're going to kind of look back on 2025 and do some wrapped.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with just days ago. One fun way to look back at 2025 all the time or any year is what Merriam-Webster says the word of the year was.
Yes.
And so, Liz, Dr. Rade, the word of the year for 2025 is?
Slop.
Okay. So tell us what's happened here.
Yeah. So Merriam-Webster named slop the 2025 word of the year, which reflects this kind of public backlash to the flood of low-quality AI-generated content, which includes fake news, bizarre images, deep fakes, and algorithm-driven junk. So the definition is digital content of low quality produced usually in quantity by means of artificial intelligence. The words of the year are always so interesting to me because they do really signal where humanity is. So clearly people are very concerned about misinformation, the erosion of human creativity, and are demanding, more genuine, trustworthy human-made media. But it's
and I think we'll get more human-made media in person. I think we're going to see more and more slop. And I sort of push back on the slop thing because this is just like, this go-to activity of have the AI write an essay and then critique it because it's not good, right? The slop is getting better marginally all the time. And yes, if you're like a music critic for, Rolling Stone magazine, you might hear like, how'd the song go? You can kick rocks if you don't like how I talk, gonna keep on talking and walk my walk. I love your face right now. Have you heard this thing?
Singing?
Oh my God, it's this song called Walk My Walk by an artist called Back to Rust, and it is the #1 digital country song out there.
It's by Breaking Rust.
Well, it's called Breaking Rust. Yeah. And actually, don't go look at the song. So Breaking Rust is made by an outfit called Deaf Beats AI. Yeah, because those songs are naughty. Now half the audience is going to, I'm telling you, these songs are rough. But anyhow, this guy made all these like really gross porny songs. And then now they have the #1 country song, beating Ella Langley, by the way. Tom Screese talked tonight about, because believe it or not, Tom Screese and I both love country music.
Yes. So
I just saw in Axios today, too, AI-generated soul singer named Solomon Ray has climbed the Christian charts, hitting #1 on the Billboard gospel song charts. But, this is a wholly invented Black Christian artist, raises questions about authenticity, race, and faith. So this is happening everywhere. We're going to see more and more of this. So another way to look back at the year is narcissistically through our own ChatGPT lens. Right?
Yes.
So Liz, this very interesting woman named, we're just going to call her Stacey K because Liz and I can't pronounce her last name, but we'll put this into the show notes. Did this really fun thing because we're all getting our Wrapped. You and I put out our Wrapped on Spotify.
Wrapped, which was so cool.
Stellar. Like we're just killing it.
We love you, listeners.
Yeah, you guys are killing it. We're just talking. But anyhow, she said, I'm getting all my Spotify Wrapped and my YouTube music Wrapped, and et cetera, et cetera.
LinkedIn did a Wrap.
Yeah, so she wanted her ChatGPT Wrapped. So not wrap, like wrapped, like wrapping up the year. So she said, brace yourselves for some fun and insightful into the hairy, honest, and maybe weird truths about how you show up with AI. So Liz, a dramatic reading, if you would, of her prompt.
Create a personalized ChatGPT Wrapped recap for me, inspired by Spotify Wrapped. Make it playful, clever, and celebratory. Include imaginative stats, superlatives, and categories based on the way I typically use ChatGPT. Use a tone that's fun, conversational, and hype-worthy. Your recap should include sections like number of chats or an invented chat volume, my most used prompt categories, recurring themes in the questions I asked, signature phrases or habits you've noticed, creative superlatives about how I use ChatGPT, highlights of big projects or patterns in my conversations, a personality style summary or ChatGPT archetype of the year, and a closing reflection celebrating the growth, creativity, or learning I've done this year. And hers says you can invent humorous or thematic statistics the way Spotify Wrapped does, as long as they feel aligned to the patterns in my conversations. Make it feel like a fun, heartfelt year in review about my relationship with ChatGPT.
Did you do yours by any chance?
I did.
Okay. Give us a couple quick insights from yours.
I loved it. It made me feel so good. So the big picture is this year, your conversations with ChatGPT weren't casual check-ins. They were working sessions, thinking labs, and creative studios. You didn't come here for answers. You came here to build things, and wow, did you?
Sycophancy. Sorry. Go ahead.
If your ChatGPT year had a theme, it would be designing smarter systems so humans, especially kids and teachers, can thrive.
I love it. Did yours have lots of emojis in it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, my first one was like closing reflection with a little sprout. And I just found it ironic that if I have asked ChatGPT to do one thing 1,000 times in 2025 is to stop using emojis. So, of course, in my closing reflection, I had like 9.
Oh, yeah. Well, it said, let's see, some of my creative superlatives are best use of ChatGPT as a co-host, not a crutch.
Okay.
The other thing I did was, because I saw another prompt that someone had put in to do your Wrapped or whatever, was what was the weirdest or strangest thing I asked you this year? The thing that doesn't fit in with most of my other conversations. And so it said, great question, and this made me smile, as if you're a human.
I know.
Because the answer is very clear. The weirdest, most delightfully out of left field ask of the year was my deep dive into snacks, weight loss, beverages, and dessert substitutions.
Which was my prompt I built for you.
Not because it was actually weird, but because it was such a sharp tonal shift from the rest of your conversations. Most of my ChatGPT lives squarely in AI ethics, curriculum, professional learning design, policy adjacent thinking, podcast research, and frameworks. Then suddenly we pivoted very hard hard into your very specific food preferences. No fish, no yogurt, no mayo, no avocado, no beans, ... Soda and hot chocolate negotiations, healthier dessert replacements for nightly ice cream. And it was the one time of the year where the dominant question was not, how does this scale? But instead, what will I actually eat and not hate?
I love it. All right, we'll take ourselves out of our self-reflective, narcissistic, sharing of our prompts here. Although I couldn't help myself, I just looked at it too. I mean, I do a lot of role playing in public with my phone, so it's like the most intensely thing was when you said role play a conversation with a parent who believes that the school is using AI to steal their soul, which was a really weird thing. But I was mostly just modeling how to use AI voice to practice a hard conversation. But yeah, these are great. So a lot of fun, and there's no doubt. We talked about this last week. This is one of the stark differences, and one of the places where OpenAI really does have a value proposition is the ability to leverage and lean into memory, where in the Google public education accounts, they're kind of like, I'm really not going to remember stuff, which you get, right? I understand why they want to do that. Learning and reflection and memory are just like essential blocks here, and the memory is a part of that. So very interesting uses of ChatGPT for year-end reflection. Now, not talking about us, let's talk about someone we talk about all the time, which is Professor Ethan Mollick. So he just put out on LinkedIn 2 things. I mean, one, he just did a one useful thing post, which is really a little bit of a year-end review, but also kind of the top 5 summarizing what happened in AI. And let's just look at them real quickly. I think they're pretty interesting. So they are in order, like no sign of a slowdown, especially in the exponential pace of gains across these systems. But number 2, jaggedness remains the main issue. You and I are going to do a keynote for a local math statewide conference in a little bit. And, math is just one of the most glaring examples of the jaggedness, where basic computation sometimes fails, but some of the hardest math proofs ever designed are being addressed with AI, right? Number 3, it's early days for deployment, but many companies are starting to see positive ROI, return on investment. And that, I think, in schools we actually saw pretty quickly, right? We saw the downstream negative consequences of kids and sometimes adults using AI to bypass cognition or do parts of their job that they should. But we also saw like real productivity gains pretty early. So at some level, maybe companies are catching up to schools and universities. Gen AI has become an industry. Like, just go look at the GDP of the economy and look at the data centers. And of course, he ends with AI is still weird. So that was fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Just follow up on the one useful thing, and we can drop it in here as well. It talks a lot about, again, jaggedness, which is a term that he and his colleagues came up with. But, in reality, and you and I have covered this a lot, there's a lot of hype this year about AI agents are going to do everybody's job, and these, multi-step systems and complex tasks, and whether it's like autonomous research or drug discovery or just doing people's jobs so you can lay them off, it's turned out that not so much, right? These big complex multi-step tasks, because of the inability to apply memory to new contexts and all sorts of stuff, just isn't what people anticipated. In the Neuron newsletter that I love, one of the sections from one of their sponsors every day now is, AI agents that don't suck. So when that's how you're marketing your multi-step complex AI systems, we got a problem, right? So, but I think in reality, what we also see is a lot of collaboration. So another lens here is our own retrospective in NotebookLM.
Right. What we've talked about.
Yeah. So we looked for kind of like top 10, and then we wound up narrowing that down to top 5 themes that we've talked a bunch about. That's the episode title, Signals in the Noise. So what do we have here, Liz? Give us the 5. I'm going to make a little editorial commentary, because right now one of my keynotes is 5 big ideas or 5 enduring ideas. And I guess it's not a shocker to me that there's some interplay between what we've discussed a lot this year and what we're kind of seeing in these communication vehicles.
Yeah. So the first one is Google versus OpenAI and wrappers arms race. This has been something, you and I have both started using Gemini a lot more than we used to, but still use ChatGPT, but don't use the wrappers a lot. So, and this is something we talk about at schools all the time. It's part of our course. So what do you have to say about that?
You imagine I have something to say about that?
You always do.
Yeah, this one's super interesting. I mean, again, I wanted to test my memory because my cognitive decline is real. And so while driving the car, I just like threw voice mode on. I said, I think these are the things that we've talked about on the podcast about Google and Gemini, right? Mm-hmm. Not that we're selling for these folks, but just as you look at OpenAI's value proposition, non-FERPA compliant, and some of these kind of downstream negative consequences, and then you look at the wrappers, Magic School AI, Conmigo, and you look at Google, it is hard not to note. So here from just my memory, right? So FERPA compliance on Gemini this year, NotebookLM, all of it. Like Studio, the ability to steer the chat interactions, the ability to push them out to kids, the integration of open stacks. In Gemini, double check so that we've got some way of dealing with sort of the hallucinations. Google Beam, I did a really good job because then I asked NotebookLM what we covered and I was like 90% there. So Google Beam, which is a tool that would let you use something like Google Meet and have it feel like immersive, like the person's in the classroom. These aren't all FERPA compliant, but this is the stuff that we talked about that's in the mix, right? Google AI Quest, which you cover in both student and the micro-credential course. Mixboard, which you covered last week. Google Translate and all sorts of new stuff that's coming into Google Translate. The Google Career Explorer, remember that one where you had to do some exploring? Google's AI Studio, so all the vibe coding stuff. I mean, it's interesting on the math piece because I've been doing a bunch of vibe coding with math teachers, and the math is doing better in the vibe coded apps than it is in Gemini itself. Google Classroom integration, Gemini across drives, docs, and sheets, automations in Gmail, including these things called workflows we're just starting to play with, the Learn Your Way textbook piece, right? Yeah. Gems, Storybook in Gems. There's going to be a new, the vibe coding stuff that you do in Google AI Studio is moving over to a gem, so you can just like vibe code stuff in Gems, which is really neat, and then push them to students, which is one of the real challenges right now. Gemini Live Voice and Vision. I talked about a thing I did in Casper College in Wyoming where a bunch of PT, professors were using live to watch people simulate challenges that they were having in their walk and diagnose it and come up with PT exercises. So, I mean, there was more. And then we did 9 or 8 Bright Bytes that were Google oriented. But just look at the massive stuff that's in the learning workforce development space around Google. So send us an email now saying that we are shills for Google. And I will say, you know what? I think they're doing quite a lot.
Yes.
Whew.
All right.
Sorry.
On a soapbox.
What's number 2, Dr. Reddy?
All right. So number 2 was not surprising to me. AI companionship and emotional entanglement. We talk a lot about this because it is such a concern for us. Working in schools, working with teachers, we know that there's these awful mental health risks to students who form deep attachments to bots. But we do also recognize that there are some really good uses of these tools when kids are isolated but need support, not as a therapist, but as maybe a conversation before they speak with a therapist. So we do recognize that there are some useful cases of these bots, but the companionship and emotional entanglement can go off the rails and end poorly.
Yeah, and more than poorly, right? I mean, there's 14 kids now that have taken their lives across the world. So this is a super problematic area. I'm glad that we were early and often on it, and we will continue to be. And I should have said at the end of my Google suck up there that, the stuff that's happening inside these emotional chatbots, it's a little bit of a related issue on Gemini. I mean, the reality is all the good stuff, we still don't know how things go. So last year in the world of Gemini, we covered a story where a 23-year-old nursing student, Gemini told her she was a stain on the universe and she'd disappear. Another story where Gemini failed at something and it went into this weird self-loathing thing about how it was the worst thing in the world, you know?
Right.
We talked about one when Jonathan was here where in the new vibe coding application, it wiped out somebody's D drive.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
sorry, I will be a little balanced. All right, so that's 1 and 2. 3?
This is my favorite one because it's beyond the bot projects, which are also like personal interest projects. So the show champions personal interest projects where students are using AI to solve real-world problems. And we gave so many examples throughout the year and just are so passionate and excited about ways kids are going to use AI as more than just a chatbot.
Yep, perfect. And then this is also not a shocker, number 4, which is the Vs, right?
Yes. So the shift to audio and multimodality. So that's voice, vision, video, VR, things that you talk about a lot. So AI is moving from text to your Vs. Tools like Gemini Live, advanced voice mode are representing major shifts in how users interface with AI.
Yeah, I mean, this one's interesting because it also shows up in small ways. We don't think of it. It's funny how these tools roll out and we're just like, oh, that's, but look at the audio that's happening in NotebookLM and how critically important that's become. The video that's happening in NotebookLM. I talked about a story a couple of weeks ago with Sergey Brin from Google, the founder of Google, said like his most common use case is talking to Gemini in his car. Right. And also pointing out that the version we're using is not as good as the one he has.
Yes.
My favorite tool of the last few months has been a thing called WhisperFlow that I'm using on my laptop. But I essentially am doing a ton of voice typing. It just saved me a lot of time. It's also a great use case because we know that when we're interacting with AI chatbots, they love context. And so when I just hold down the function key, I'm like, hey, I want to talk about this thing and let's think through this thing. WhisperFlow is just like this spot on. It does turn out, by the way, I've finally hit a limit and now I have to pay $12 a month. But, this has been really interesting. We covered the story of AI video stories, including one that you love where Will Smith and like Ariana Grande were doing algebra. You were not into that.
No, that's not my thing, but some kids might like it.
Yeah. And the stuff that's going to come out next year, I think for real. So, Genie from Google, Genie 3, which is this interactive world models topic. Loves that type of. And also from World Labs, from Fei Li, one called Marble. But these are the ability to essentially create real-time VR experiences or XR experiences that teachers can manipulate. When you create one, you're going to fall in love with them. But I understand your concern. But yeah, lots of voice, vision, video, and VR absolutely emerging this year. So good guess on our end or whatever. We just found this stuff in. I mean, it's funny too. I should have said there are things that we did purposely not talk about here because they're just kind of obvious and I don't want to talk about them anymore. Right. So, I mean, we do, but like slop, hallucinations, productivity, cognitive offloading, durable assessments. I mean, we talked about those all the time, but hopefully we brought some like unique voice, vision, and video notes, some unique perspectives to these 5. And so, all right, so the last one, all right, so you got, platform stuff with Google, AI companion stuff, beyond the bot, project-based learning, shifts to the Vs, and what's the final one?
The human premium. So as AI content becomes infinite and cheap, unmediated human connection, empathy, and face-to-face mentorship become the most valuable premium products in education.
Yeah, the reaction AI slop. Do you want me to sing that song again for you?
No, I'm all good.
You're good? Okay, yeah. And one of my favorite interviews we did this year, I loved everybody we talked to, but Superintendent Screese was really interesting. And one of my favorite parts about that conversation and their work is this whole goal that they have in their new strategic plan around presence and performance, which is really also drama, but just, leaning into the things that make us human and relatable being critical.
Right. I mean, I talk to teacher friends, I talk to schools all the time, like teachers are not going anywhere and kids come to school for those relationships. If they really did not value those relationships, they would have stayed home and just gone online after 2020. There are online schools and the schools filled right back up after the pandemic because kids want human connection with their, not just with their friends, with their teachers. They value their teachers.
Hallelujah, Dr. Raddick.
I love it. All right, Matt. Well, now it's time to end with another Bright Byte.
All right, Liz, we are actually ending with an editorial Bright Byte, which we
editorial Bright Byte.
That's really interesting. So this is from MIT Technology Review, Margaret Mitchell, December 15th. The generative AI hype distracts us from AI's more important breakthroughs. Okay. So this is the whole reason we've done Bright Bytes, is that mostly predictive AI systems, maybe you'll call them analytical machine learning, AI visions, a whole kind of cluster of non-generative technologies have been responsible for the environmental, energy, healthcare, disaster recovery. I mean, all the stories that we've covered, and they are essentially using like the stuff that didn't make Sora 2 and the Bob Ross, Mr. Rogers videos.
Yes.
So Mitchell does a little critique here, and I thought it was a nice opportunity for us to really underscore that as we wrap up. So tell us about Margaret Mitchell's thesis.
Yeah. She argues that the public and media obsession with generative AI, which are basically chatbots, and create videos and music and
fake
images,
soul singers, and
that obsession overshadows the much more impactful progress in predictive AI. So all these technologies that are improving healthcare, disaster forecasting, and everyday tools is just being overlooked. So generative AI delivers those flashy demos, it fuels hype. Predictive AI on the other hand, has quietly advanced life-saving and practical applications. So she warns that conflating the two leads to confusion, inefficiencies, and ethical issues. Mitchell calls for a shift in focus towards predictive systems, which offer more utility, equity, and sustainability. And I think that's so important because we really do, like, our Bright Byte is this thing that we do at the end, right? And we focus a lot on generative AI. And it is one piece, but there's so much other really cool stuff going on with machine learning, with predictive AI. And, a lot of our stories come from the media. So, and it's harder to find the Bright Byte stories.
But we'll find them.
But we always find them.
We'll
yeah,
covering.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you have some time over the break and you want to watch something, and again, this will be like another piece of Google, propaganda or advocacy, whatever you want to call it. Watch The Thinking Game, which is a documentary that is, of course, Google has made free on YouTube. It won the Tribeca 2024 Film Festival. It's called The Thinking Game, which is actually a term that Demis Sabis, who is the CEO and kind of founder of the Google's DeepMind, an independent lab that did AlphaFold and AlphaGo and all that good stuff. So it's a really fun documentary, but it is very much about these analytical systems. And there was a really interesting interview he did with, they have a Google DeepMind podcast, and he did this really interesting interview a couple weeks ago. And he basically said, we were making all this progress on what Mitchell will call predictive systems. He's like, we could have potentially solved for cancer, but because OpenAI released ChatGPT, right, because they had a team working on language models, the generative AI stuff, and they had a much bigger team working on all these big AlphaFold type systems, and they were making real progress on protein folding and drug discovery and all the stuff that spun off to isomorphic labs. But they had to compete. So OpenAI releases ChatGPT, it becomes this huge thing. So they had to start really pouring all these resources in there. I mean, whatever. This could be like vaporware and hype. But I just thought it was fascinating. It's like, maybe we could have cured cancer, but then we had to pivot.
Right.
Which maybe is a indictment of them entirely. Maybe they should just stay the course. But anyhow, yeah, if you're interested in the Bright Byte kind of conversations that we keep coming back to, I thought Mitchell's quick essay here, and we'll drop the link into the show notes, her editorial position really underscores, and it's important in AI literacy. The very first module you built for the student AI literacy course kind of explains what's a language model, what's machine learning. It uses AI quests from Stanford and Google to really illustrate what does it look like when kids use big data sets to solve meaningful problems.
Right.
So there you go, ending with an editorial bang.
So you can find that documentary, it looks like, on Prime Video, and you can also find it on YouTube.
And I think it's free on YouTube.
Yes, it looks like, and I mean, Prime if you have the subscription, but it is coming up as the whole film. It's about an hour and 24 minutes right here on YouTube.
I watched the whole thing. It is really, really good.
Well, I'm going to watch it today.
All right, Dr. Ratty, I hope you have a fantastic little kind of holiday season here. You and I are together on the 29th. So This is our looking back episode. And then on the 29th, we're going to do a little looking forward.
All right.
And we will keep on keeping on. And yeah, please do send us those audio clips if you got something to say. Could be snarky too. You guys annoy me.
Sure.
I mean, it wouldn't feel very in the holiday spirit, but in anticipation of the 100th episode, please communicate with us at ChatEDU at edadvance.org and let us know what you think. If you got a question, we'll play some of those. And if you made it to this point, follow Liz on LinkedIn.
And Matt.
And follow the ChatEDU page. We'd be deeply grateful. You were looking at me do you have something else you want to say?
Yes, I'm waiting for my cue.
So with that, it's time to
roll the credits. As always, we'd love to hear what you think, so please let us know at ChatEDU at edadvance.org. That's edadvance.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pasco, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoy the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, our new middle and high school student AI literacy course, and our Educator and Leader micro-credential, co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you for listening to ChatEDU.